All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to talk about tracking, which is a fun one. More specifically, how to track your ads to know exactly where your revenue is coming from. Meaning, okay, $5,000 was closed in a deal. Which specific campaign or which specific ad did that $5,000 come from? Right? Because if you don't know that, then how do you know which campaigns to turn off, which campaigns to scale up and increase the budget on? Same thing for how many leads came from a specific campaign, and what's my cost per lead on a specific campaign, and what's my cost per scheduled call on this specific campaign. We have to know these details in order to make ad running decisions. We need to know, again, which campaigns to turn off, and then what to scale the budget on. Otherwise, we're flying blind. Okay. First thing I'll say is that you can use third-party tools such as Hyros. Hyros is probably the biggest one in the internet marketing space right now in terms of a third-party tracking tool. If you go and buy from Hyros, obviously, I won't benefit at all from it because there's no tracking link for this, but you can go talk to them. This is, obviously this is a robust software that you can use to accurately track your sales. Okay. We use Hyros in our ad agency with some clients. And we also use our own tracking process that I've built out, and I'll show you how we kind of do that here in a second. So we use both, long story short, but feel free to use a third-party tracking tool like Hyros. Another example is Wicked Reports. These are basically just softwares that plug into your ad account and show you in a dashboard like where certain leads came from, how many calls came from this specific campaign, what's the return on ad spend and profit from this specific campaign, etc. Okay. Again, we use our own tracking process as well alongside of Hyros with some of our clients that we run ads for. Okay. Now, in this video, I want to show you the fundamental, how to think about how to track, which campaign your ads came from. And I'll show you a little bit about the process that, I built out to track everything for our clients, basically. So, we use a tool called Looker Studio. It's a free tool by Google. And as you can see on my screen here, it's basically a dashboard. Okay. And for our ad agency clients, I've built this out to look just like you see it right now. This is an example of one of them. And this tracks how much we've spent, what our total revenue ROAS is, meaning what is our total return on ad spend in terms of all of the revenue that was generated with the closed deals that were closed during this time frame. How many units were closed, which means how many deals were closed. What is our cost per customer acquisition? How many leads? What is our cost per lead? How many qualified applications? What's our cost per qualified application? What's our cost per book call, etc. And then the most important part of this is on this campaign stats tab that we have here. We actually track each of these campaigns per campaign in terms of the specific metrics per campaign. So I'm not just looking at the total stats, right? That's fine if you only have one campaign in your ad account, but what if you have two? What do you have three? What if you have 10 campaigns that are running right now in your ad account? You need to be able to differentiate all of these stats per campaign, or else you're flying blind still, right? So over this specific time frame, like this week, for example, I need to be able to look and say, and I need to be able to look and be like, okay, what is my cost per book call from this specific campaign? What's my cost per book call from this specific campaign? Which campaigns have produced closed deals in whatever this time frame is. And this dashboard gives me the ability to make decisions on a per campaign basis, because I can see all this data per campaign. Okay. This is you can't run ads without this. You need to be able to see the exact results that have been produced from each campaign, or else you are literally flying blind, and it's going to be impossible for you to do anything accurately. And don't try to go into your ad account and use the stats in your ad account, because it's inaccurate. Right? Like, you might, your results in terms of how many, leads that are in here might be fairly accurate, but I know for sure you're not going to have accurate tracking, especially for how many closed deals were closed per campaign, which that's the most important thing, is what is your ROAS? What is your CPA? What is the actual return on your ad spend that you got in terms of profit and in terms of revenue? That's what actually matters. And you're not going to see that in the ad account data. You need to pull that data manually or through a dashboard like this. Now you're probably wondering, like, how do we even get all this accurate data in that dashboard? Now, the way we actually do it is through what's called UTM parameters. So when someone clicks on an ad on Facebook, for example, it doesn't just send them to this URL. It sends them to a URL with a snippet on the end of it that looks like this, with a question mark and then UTM_source equals, test 000, or some snippet that I want to identify that they came from Facebook ads. So the way we do it actually is we put FB ads here. And then we also use UTM_campaign. And then we'll do something, and then we use FB ads, and then we use a campaign code like 003 or 243. Just like you see in this ad account, we have campaign codes here that we use. So I can easily identify a campaign in the dashboard. Like, okay, look, we're going to turn off, 245, or we're going to scale budget on 223 by 20% or whatever, right? So in these campaigns, we pass through, when they click on the link on the ad, the URL is not just the URL. It has UTM parameters on the URL that gets passed through it. And the UTMs that we have passed through are unique to the campaign, like you see here. Like I'll put a campaign code, for example, but we'll have an identifier that they came from Facebook ads. We'll also have an identifier that they came from this specific campaign. Now, the way we get this information into our client CRMs is through the Typeform application, or the lead form, right? So we have some specific code that's in the code of this landing page that basically pulls these snippets from the UTM parameters in the URL, and it pulls it through the Typeform application, this lead form here. And we have an automation set up that passes that information into the CRM, where, for example, I can come into this specific contact, and as you can see here on this contact, they came through this specific campaign. You can see the UTM source is Facebook ads, and you can see under the UTM campaign field that I have under this contact in the CRM exactly which campaign they came from. Okay, and then I don't want to make this video too complicated, but essentially what we do is we have a tracking team, like a virtual assistant, basically, that comes into the CRM every single day, and pulls data on how many leads came from this specific campaign and how many leads came from a different campaign, etc. And we pull it into a Google Sheet that has all the data, which essentially populates this dashboard. Okay. I'm not going to get into all the nuances of how this works because it will be a really long video if I do that. All I would tell you to do is just go on YouTube or go talk to ChatGPT and ask and research how to set up a Looker Studio dashboard like this and how to fill in data into a Google Sheet, which is basically just a database of data, so that you can actually pull data through and organize it like this and change the data and update the data based on a specific time frame like this. So the data refreshes with the specific data for that specific time frame. Okay? So this is how we actually do it, and this is how we do it accurately. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, when someone goes to the funnel, these things called UTM parameters get added to the end of the URL, and the UTM parameters are custom for each specific campaign that we're running on Facebook, for example. Okay, and when they click on that campaign, it passes through those unique UTM parameters, and the code on the page pulls that data and passes it through the lead form. And we use automations on Zapier, for example. If you're familiar with Zapier, we pull that information from the type form through a Zapier automation, and we send it into the CRM, which is how this lead, for example, got this UTM campaign on it, and these UTM parameters. And now it's in a custom field, and now I can have a VA go in and see exactly which campaign this specific lead came from. So if this lead booked a call and also closed, my VA comes in, pulls that data, and marks that this lead that came from this specific campaign was a lead and also booked a call and also was a closed unit or a closed deal, just like you see in here. Okay. Again, I'm not going to go through all the nuances because it would take too long. But as long as you just start, most people don't do tracking because it feels overwhelming. I didn't do tracking properly for years because it felt overwhelming. It felt confusing to me. But just like anything, once you start doing it, you become very familiar with it very quickly. It doesn't take very long to become familiar with how to do all this stuff, especially when you're watching YouTube videos and you are just doing it, and it just starts to unravel for you. Okay. So I hope this was helpful and insightful on how that works. Again, go do more research on how to do tracking. There's a lot that goes into it and a lot that you can learn. There's a lot that I still don't know about tracking, I'm sure, because there's just so many different things that you can do and different custom ways that you can do it. You just want to build out a way to track things in a spreadsheet or in a dashboard like this, so you can see the results on a dynamic time frame per campaign. Because otherwise you're flying blind. You need to know what the results are per campaign, not just on the ad account as a whole. So anyway, hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, reach out, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys soon.